Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm Ken,
And I'm Nicole.
and welcome to our new podcast series.
Burnout Burns, where we talk about burning out, the factors, the signs, and how to lead a more sustainable life.
Yeah, so why a podcast on burnout?
Let me take you back like 10 years ago, where I went for an interview for my first job. At the end of the interview, they will usually ask, "Do you have any last questions for us?" And at that time, I asked, what was the company's take on work life balance? And of course, work life balance at that time wasn't really like a hot topic or anything. But the HR person, upon hearing my question, she started laughing really long. I think she genuinely found it funny, and she actually slapped the person next to her. I mean, not slap, but like, see, she's so skinny. You think that we actually have work-life balance? And I was like, oh, okay. Long story short, I did not get the job. It sucked. Nobody likes rejection. But looking back on hindsight, I realized that it was a blessing in disguise. It was a redirection because 1 year later, I actually met the person who had the job. I knew her. She was telling me that she had quit because she was constantly overwhelmed and she would get sick a lot. And so she decided to quit after 1 year and she did a complete career change. Throughout my career, I do struggle with seasons of burnout where I unintentionally or intentionally or unknowingly get into this pattern of overwork. And there was this one particular season where I was working after hours and that would cause me to have trouble falling asleep. I couldn't sleep well and that would cause my body to be very inflamed. I reached a point where I would experience symptoms of autoimmune disease where your body actually attacks your own healthy cells, and I would have inflammation on my face and I'll get fever for no reason. And every time I faced that health issue, I would say, okay, it's time to stop. It's time to put a cap on things and readjust my working life to have better boundaries. But I don't really want to continuously be in this cycle. I want to really get a handle on it where I don't every now and then face this season of burnout. And I think that's the reason why I really want to do this podcast so that we can dive deep into all the different factors and the issues that contribute to burnout.
I think this is a wonderful place for us to start right at the beginning to really look at maybe when did burnout start to occur in our lives, in society, and in which era, right? So I used to think that maybe because we are at the point where we are at the peak of work efficiency, everyone is professional at the workplace, we harness technology. So is it only exclusive to this era? My digging and my investigation has led me to an article from the Washington Post that actually this started as early as in the 1970s, and our character study today is on a psychologist in New York in the 70s, where he would usually put in a 10-hour day in his private practice. But that's not all, right? We think 10 hours is like pretty much a standard work day, but this guy had a second shift at St. Mark's Free Clinic, which he helped to found together with some volunteers. And this passion project basically helped the needs of young people who were living in East Village. After a while, working together with his team, he would frequently have meetings into the wee hours of the morning, and then he would sleep for a few hours, and then this cycle would repeat itself over again. It was not until a year later that he realized that he couldn't get out of bed. His daughter actually recalls that they were about to go for vacation and he was so tired. So this actually prompted him to do an analysis on his own life. And 4 years later, he actually published a paper. In this paper, he actually asked a very important question. Basically, he asked a question to himself, who is prone to burnout? And his answer was unambiguous. He said the dedicated and the committed. And I was thinking, wow, passion is what actually should drive us, right? It should help us punch through burnout symptoms. But unfortunately, no. And when I think about it more deeply, I begin to think that it's true because if you were really good at something, it would also mean that you might be more willing to put in more time into it because you are working in your zone of genius. You will lose track of time. You will also lose track of, you will also basically do it for free, even if no one, because you feel like very purposeful doing it. So that might lead you down this spiral of burnout. So he actually documented some of the signs of burnout as well, and that included things like exhaustion, being unable to shake a lingering cold, suffering from frequent headaches, gastrointestinal disturbances, sleeplessness, and shortness of breath, right? And that led me to an article that was published by the Straits Times, and this is more on the local scene in Singapore, right? Where he actually talks about more young PMETs taking longer breaks from work to recharge, right? So it actually follows the account of a 35-year-old media professional who basically mentioned the similar symptoms, which included sleep problems, appetite issues, and having nightmares about work. This phenomenon will probably probably discuss this in upcoming episodes. This article talks about him having to deal with anxiety, that he was not able to even enjoy the company of his friends and family, right? And that caused his physical and mental state to really deteriorate. And we really want to explore this issue as well, right? So what do you think, what are some of the signs and what constitutes to burnout in the workplace?
From my observation, especially in Singapore work culture, I think one quite common and big factor is the way we work. We want things to be fast, we want things to have quantity, to have quality, and also at a cheap rate. All these factors make up a very unrealistic way of working because sometimes something's got to give. If you want something to be of a good quality, it might take time, but yet we want things to have a quick turnover. In Singapore work culture, it's quite common to have a lot of things to be urgent work. We are always constantly, like you say, firefighting. Things are always like in a crunch time. And I think that environment really contributes to burnout. So when we talk about wanting quantity, quality, cheap price, and fast turnover, on that topic, there's actually this very interesting Disney documentary series that we love watching called Animals Up Close with Birdie. And there is this one episode where they were studying these marine ecosystems in a particular part of Indonesia, the island, and they were talking about how they were doing some conservation efforts. The reason for that was because previously, fishermen, in an attempt to get more fish, get more sales, get more money, getting things fast and quick, decided to do this fishing method that really destroyed the ecosystem. They would actually throw the dynamite into the water, the dynamite would explode, and all the dead fishes would just rise to the surface. And while that was very efficient, very quick, and it allowed them to reap a lot more profits, it actually killed the ecosystem. And when they went to dive in the area, you could see the coral reefs were just literally graveyards. They were like gray, they were dead. It caused the ecosystem to die, and the number of fishes would actually be reduced. So in their conservation efforts, they decided to put a stop to overfishing, and there was a protected area, and the ecosystem actually flourished, which overspilled into the areas where they were allowed to fish. So that means there were enough fishes for them to fish.
And that's so fascinating because we want to look at that example and go like, hey, a sustainable life is actually much more beneficial than one that looks at the short-term benefits of just getting everything quick, but at what cost, right? I can't help but think about technology as well. We use technology in our work. We have our emails, our smartphones.
So that's the funny thing, because in the past, they predicted that with the increase of technology or the rise of technology, that we will actually be more free. But I think that in a modern society, I think it's quite clear that most people actually feel that they are so busy instead of having a lot of free time. Even in our work, we work like all the way until the last minute, and you just feel like sometimes there's not enough time to complete all the work that you want to accomplish.
Exactly. So I think with the rise of technology, I think we hope to discuss this in maybe upcoming episodes. But I feel as though as with all the notifications and all the rings and the dings, we are constantly, our attention is being centered, right, on all these things. And I feel like it has actually led to an increase of expectations from our stakeholders, from our business partners, from our bosses. And there is no more clear distinction in terms of like the working hours anymore because of technology. COVID has also changed the way we work. We have actually started to do more remote working, and that hybrid kind of work style also has us leaning into technology a little bit more because maybe there is no more commute, for instance. So the bosses now expect you to work a little bit longer, right? Because of that at home, right? So this whole idea of work-life integration, is it really better, or is it also a key contributor to burnout in the workplace?
And also you talked about notifications, and because it's so easy to get disturbed throughout your whole workday, women like to say we are multitaskers, which is like kind of true. But it really depends on the task. I've seen that it's actually distracting to jump from one task to another, especially when the task requires this one brain. And like when you keep jumping or you keep getting interrupted by other people through your messaging or through you keep working one project, jumping here and there, that actually requires so much more energy to get into the focus of that project you're trying to work on at a period of time that you feel more stretched, versus doing deep work where like you can focus for like a few hours without any interruption and really get the work done and done well.
So I think all these distractions and all that do take us away from that deep work that we need to do to feel accomplished at the workplace. And I'm not sure with this phenomenon can also lead to burnout. So we hope to discuss some of these things. Obviously, this might go into a separate episode and we don't want to keep you here forever, of course. But yes, so this is kind of like a prelude into the things that we will be discussing across the mini series that we have here on Burnout Burns.
Yeah, so I think
series.
the upcoming episodes, we would love to discuss about whether society has created this environment for burnout, social media, technology, even societal expectations, does that create burnout? And also like how to deal with it. Does personality play a part, if you're introverted or if you're someone who has like a little bit less energy than other people? And how do you kind of tackle all these different factors?
More than just identifying, also learning how to recharge, how to recover. Like if we experience fatigue, we're not experts in this area, nor are we like professionals, but we really just want to do a little bit of a deeper dive. And if you feel like you want to be a part of it as well, stay tuned and join us on this journey. We really encourage you to let us know in the comments below as well. Like if there's anything that you want us to take on board in our next couple of episodes, do let us know. And we've reached the end of our first episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do drop us a like. It would mean the world. And also subscribe, right, for more episodes on this podcast series. Okay, so stay tuned to episode 2, where we do a deeper dive on whether society has created this crazy busy place for all of us. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.